Welcome, a big welcome from the Dunera project. We are very happy to be here today. So come on in, grab yourself a cup of tea.
Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to teach you guys the art of Persian rice.
We are.
And you guys will definitely want to make this tonight for dinner.
I promise you will. It's become a staple in my house. Today we are drinking. It sounds like we're sponsored. We're not sponsored, actually. We're drinking. I've taken a bit of a leave from peppermint. I got a bit sick of it after a while. Yeah. So we're now drinking Puka Cleanse Organic, a radiant blend of fennel, nettle and peppermint.
I love Puka tea as well.
It's just very nice and cleansing, shall we say. Good morning, Chris in Brisbane and Ruth in Melbourne. And is that Darrell? Oh, my eyes.
Darrell, yeah.
Darrell, good morning. Hi, Esther, my sister.
Hi, Esther.
Hi, Esther. Good to see you this morning. Hi, everybody. Hi, Julia. Welcome, everybody. And please feel free to chat to us in the chat thing.
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Tanya from Melbourne. Good morning, everybody from Melbourne. We just want to say, hey, we are feeling your pain. And we are all hoping and praying that things change in 10 days. Yeah. Really, really, everything's crossed. I really hope that in 10 days there's some change for you. I know you're not confident, but here's hoping. Good morning, Nikki from Melbourne and Ellie from the Sunshine Coast.
Hey, welcome,
yes,
welcome.
How lovely to be in sunny Queensland.
Oh,
none of us are going there anytime soon. Good morning. Oh, hi, Paula. That's my mum.
Oh, hi, Paula.
Nice to see you. Your
mum's
on too. My mum's on, Lainie's mum's on, my sister, the whole family's here actually. Hi, Estelle. Hi.
She's registered sessions from America.
So you're talking about the Monday Morning Cooking Club sessions in America. So they're going to be 6 p.m. New York time, which is 9 a.m. Melbourne and Sydney time on Monday morning. But it will change again in 2 weeks when the US finishes their daylight saving. Like we just got into our daylight savings, so we know the time is right for 2 weeks, and then it changes again. Okay. And then it's going to be like that all summer. Hi, Anne. Great to see you too. Hi, everybody. Welcome, everybody from all over Australia and parts of the world. It's so great to have you here. We're just going to chat for another 30 seconds or so before we start, and then I think it's time to get started. Excuse me for 1 sec.
For anyone who is going to hopefully cook this tonight or soon, we're going to need some non-stick pans, a pot of boiling water. So we'll keep telling you guys what you need.
Okay, sorry, excuse me. I am back. All right. Okay.
Hi, Jeanette. Welcome. Hi, Anne. Welcome, everyone.
So, good morning, everybody, officially from the Dunera project. We are very happy to be here. I am Lisa Goldberg, and with me, of course, I have my very, very special guest, although soon Lainie won't be a guest on Dunera. She's going to be part of Dunera, hopefully. Lainie Cadry, who's with us to teach you the most amazing, amazing dish. It's really become one of my favourites over the probably 13 years since I was given the recipe by your mum. We'll talk about all that in a minute. But first, I just want to say a quick reminder for Dunera events coming up. There are two very, very exciting things. This Sunday at 5 p.m, this is all Australian Eastern Daylight Time, where we are in Melbourne and Sydney at the moment. We are going to have 5 p.m. synchronicity with the incredible Lainie Cadry. There is going to be music and poetry and flamenco dancers, and I recommend you turn it on, sign up beforehand and switch it on at 5 o'clock on Sunday. And then next Thursday, this time next week, I am pretty excited to be part of an event called, wait for it, Cabaret and Creme Brulee.
Oh,
and
yum.
I can tell you I won't be doing the cabaret, but I will be doing the creme brulee and a beautiful French goat's cheese tart. We're going to have Baby Elulu and French music. We're going to have Ilan here and Eddie. And I promise you, Ilan is going to be speaking French. It's going to be lots of fun. We're going to have French culture, music and food. So sign up there. The link is in the chat. You can all click on it right now and register your spot. But let's get on to today. I don't want to confuse you, but we're doing two things. We are doing this thing called Thadig, which Lainie is going to tell us so much about as soon as we've got the first thing on. And with that rice concept, which is a crispy Persian rice, we're going to make a meal. And the meal is called lubia polo, which is a mixture of meat and green beans and onions that you nestle in a nest of rice and then cook it in the Thadig way.
Yeah.
So we want to just get that on. So we're sort of skipping forward to the end of the recipe where we're assembling it, because it's got to cook for 35 minutes or so, and we want to get it right.
And the full recipe is in the third cookbook from you guys.
It's always about the food, which is the one with us on the cover. But Dunera is going to post the recipe or email it to you, however they're going to send that recipe to you. So you'll have that full recipe. We'll talk through it. So let's just start with that. Lainie, tell us the elements we've got and how we cook it.
So we're going to show you how to make a basic Thadig soon, cooking the rice, washing it, everything you need to know. But just so we have enough time to cook, we are going to assemble the meat lubia polo rice, which is like a normal Thadig, but a bit elevated with a meat filling. Yeah. So I've got a non-stick pan. This is quite a large non-stick pan, which is what you want, because the more surface area your pan has, the more ratio of crunch to rice that you have.
Yeah, and in my family, when we have this, everyone just wants the crunch. You know, very few want the fluffy rice inside. So the wider the pan, the more surface area and the more crunch you're going to get.
So we have grapeseed oil here. It's a neutral tasting oil with a high smoke point. You can use any neutral tasting oil that's got a high smoke point.
Yeah.
And we're going to cover, do you want me to measure it?
No.
I'm going to cover the bottom of our pan quite generously with oil. Again, it will depend on the size of pan you use. Yeah. You just want a nice layer. You can't see when I tip it.
It's
but
probably about 3 millimeters, probably. Yeah. Would you say, of oil?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, 2 to 3 millimeters.
And we're just going to heat this for about 1 or 2 minutes on a medium heat. And then we're going to layer the rice, followed by the meat, and then the rice again. So I've got a spoon here for the rice.
Okay, so again, the recipe, there's a link up there now for the lubia polo recipe.
Just feel like that's ready.
So the rice is starting to get a little sheen on it, and soon it'll start to have that hazy thing. Yeah. Sorry, the rice. The oil. That's oil in there. There's no rice yet. Thank you. So we'll tell you also about how long this rice has been cooked when we go through the whole process from the beginning.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that yet.
And do make sure you use a non-stick pan, because it's a nightmare, and it's not a guarantee it will flip out beautifully if it's not non-stick.
And it is a bit of a last minute thing, the flipping out. It's probably the scariest part of this recipe, because you can't really see underneath till you flip it. And sometimes you flip it and it's not as well cooked, and sometimes it's a bit more cooked. And I think over years you get better at it.
Yeah. Okay, so this is hot now. We're going to layer half of this rice in the bottom of our saucepan. Maybe a little bit more than half. I'm just going to evenly spread this rice in a layer.
So we've got the hot oil and the rice going in.
Lisa, you've experimented with how this recipe.
Yeah, no, Sharon, don't start cooking anything yet. We're just showing the meat thing as an extra. We're going to go back and do the rice step by step, and you can follow along. If you want to get started on the rice, what you can do is just put your rice into a bowl with lots of water and some salt, and just let it sit there till we're ready.
Okay. So I've made a nice even layer of rice with we're going to make sure that there's like a little bit of a lip around the side, because ideally you don't want the meat to be directly on the side of the saucepan. It will kind of burn a little bit. You probably won't taste it that much, but it just looks better as well. So now I'm going to take the meat filling,
which we're going to go through step by step as well, so don't worry.
Which Lisa cooked yesterday and put in the fridge overnight. Yeah. The great thing about doing that is that the meat filling is a little bit more solid and easy to work with in terms of assembling.
Except, yeah, that's right. When it's really hot, it's very sloppy.
Yeah, it's like
a bolognese.
Exactly. And you can do this the day ahead if you're having a dinner party or a Shabbat dinner. It smells so good. You did a good job.
So this is a delicious meat mixture with green beans, minced meat, and onions and spices. It's just beautiful. Okay, so Lainie's leaving a border. I'll lift the pan in a minute and show you closer, but she's leaving a border of rice around the outside. It's like a cross between a meat pie and Thadig. It's a Thadig meat pie or a cottage pie, but instead of potato and pastry. Oh, the sound's a bit muffled. Okay, it's probably because of the frying. All right, can you do me a favour and pass me that microphone? Okay. Is that any better? Does that sound better? No, anytime we're frying anything, it's hard. Yeah, thanks, Esther. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so can everyone see? Do you want to tell?
There's a little rim of rice, and then I've just layered the meat. And now I'm going to put the remainder of the rice on the top.
Yum, smells good already. Okay, so somebody's asked about the meat. We're going to talk about the meat recipe in a minute. We'll go through it step by step.
So just a reminder, Lisa made this yesterday. The recipe is in the Third Monday Morning Cooking Club book.
And it's also, there's a link to the recipe in the chat,
which
you can find from Dunera.
And we'll talk through
it as well,
soon. We're just putting it on the heat so it's got enough time to cook, and we can show you.
Beautiful. And this is my dinner tonight. I'm having some family over for dinner. And did I tell you this? And this is going to be dinner, okay? Yeah. So we'll have to talk about how I'm going to reheat it.
Okay,
So yay, dinner is done. It's a win for me actually when on a Thursday we get dinner done. So this is the part you need to watch.
Now I'm going to just turn down the heat to like a medium-low heat, and we're going to dome the rice. So I'm just using a spatula, and we're going to dome it. Okay.
So she's going into the sides and pushing the rice towards the center. I love this cookware. I don't know what anyone out there uses or use, but I buy the Anilon non-stick large fry pans. They don't last forever, and after a few years you do need to replace them, but I find them really great for making stews and casseroles and sauce bolognese and this sort of thing. Really, really very well made non-stick pans. Okay. Oh, that looks gorgeous already.
It smells good, doesn't it? Okay, we are done with doming the rice. Okay, so I've just domed it all the way around the side. Now,
so good. Can you see that? Oh, it's heavy.
Now I'm going to take the back of a spoon, just a rounded end, and I'm going to make little holes in the rice. This is going to allow the steam to escape easily, and it's going to make for a beautiful Persian rice, and we'll tell you what makes a beautiful Persian rice soon. And I'm going to press down, but not all the way to the bottom. The reason why I don't press down all the way to the bottom is because you'll see marks when you flip the Thadig on the top, and it just doesn't look so pretty, but it won't affect the taste if you happen to press all the way down. So I've made
some very big holes in there. Beautiful.
Holes. Okay. Now we're going to take our oil, and we're going to just do a little drizzle of oil in each hole, and that's going to come down all the way to the bottom of the rice and help make that crunchy Thadig layer. Yep. And then just do a little pour around the outside again. And that's it for the assembly.
Beautiful.
Now we've got a lid, or the lid to the pan, covered in a tea towel. What this is going to help do is absorb all the moisture that comes off of the rice, and that's going to help the Thadig be super crunchy and make the rice a little bit drier and less kind of wet, which is what you want in Persian rice. But we'll go more into that now. So this is just going to sit on the heat probably till the last 10 minutes. So when we
Flip
flip
it
it
out.
over. So the lower and slower you cook Thadig, the crunchier it's going to be consistently. But sometimes I make it in like 10 minutes if I'm rushing. So just, you've got to watch it. You've got to love it. Put good energy in it. Take care of it like it's a baby.
Somebody's asked the size of the pan. I can tell you that, So it's a 4.7 litre fry pan. This one is also analog, is a 5 litre. And I use both of these all the time. And you can find them on sale quite often in sets where you get the smaller fry pans, smaller saucepan than these. They're really good. I really recommend them. Do you use these? Have you got these?
We've also got Bessemer pans, which are great.
I heard that Bessemer is not being made at the moment. There's some
really?
pause in it, but someone apparently is taking it over and relaunching it. So
I was asked the other day, can you make Thadig in Le Creuset? And I just wouldn't recommend it because it's just not so great to turn out.
Someone's asked about the saffron water. Yes, we have completely left it out because
Lisa doesn't like saffron.
So I'm sorry about that. Talk through the saffron water.
We will. So this is now going to sit on the heat, and we're going to talk through all about how to make a standard Thadig Persian rice.
Move your tea out of the way from there. And I'll just put this there on low.
Yep.
And that's not in the way there of anything, I don't think. That's good. Okay.
Cool. All right. We're just going to let that sit. Now we have 2 cups of rice that Lisa's soaked for 2 hours, Lisa.
Yep. And we are going to come back and talk about that because I want to talk about my sister Esther made this a couple of weeks ago and she loved it, but I want to tell you about my green bean story because it's quite funny. Okay. And also about where the recipe came from. Lainie has got such a very good story about making up this recipe years ago. All right. So let's start. So now we're starting from scratch how to make a Persian Thadig.
Okay.
And I guess we've got to start here with the rice. So talk rice.
Okay. Persian rice, you want Basmati rice, and ideally it should be aged, and really long grains of rice. You can obviously go and buy Basmati rice from your supermarket.
Which is what this is actually.
But you want nice long grains of rice, and the longer aged the rice is, the more tasty it's going to be. That's what you want. The rice actually has a taste and you want to appreciate the taste of the rice. So aged Basmati rice is the way to go. And if you must, you can get it from your supermarket as well. So
this isn't as long as some of the ones that I bought before, but I just like the sound of a 5 kilo bag because we go through a lot here. So I bought this brand and we'll see what it's like.
So I guess the markers of really good Persian rice is that the rice shouldn't stick together at all. One of my friends, Yegane, who actually works at Cadry's, she's amazing at cooking, and she teaches me all about, authentic Persian cooking. And she told me that, when you go to a dinner party in Iran, they judge your rice by how many rice grains stick together. So if you have more than 7 rice grains stuck together, it's like you don't know how to cook. So that's the level where we're going for. So this rice has been soaking in salted water. Lisa used 2 teaspoons of salt for 2 cups of rice and water for about 2 hours. Soaking it ahead of time will help the rice with salt leach out some of that starch. And the aim is to have completely clear water once you've washed the rice. So now we're going to show you how to wash the rice.
But if you're just following along now and want to cook along with us, you can skip that and just start rinsing with us.
It's just more ideal. We're trying to do everything we can to get rid of the outside layer of starch on the rice because we want it to stick together as little as we can. And the more starch, the more it will stick together. So very gently, you want to move your hand in a rounded motion to wash the rice. Don't squeeze the rice like this because it's going to make the grains really short, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So very gently, we're going to go and move it.
Has to be in an anti-clockwise direction. I'm joking. Because they'll know if you've stirred it the wrong way.
And I'm just going to drain.
I'm going to take you over to the sink and so you can see what she's doing. Bear with me for 1 second. Perfect.
So I'm just going to drain off and tip off that water.
I thought you found it over to you.
Till almost all the water's drained and you don't lose too much rice when tipping it off. And now I'm going to add more cool water. And we're going to, again, wash the rice. The more times you wash the rice, the better the rice will be. It's kind of a matter of how many times you have patience to wash it. I like to wash it a minimum of 7 or 8 times, just because I don't want that starchy water to make the rice stick together. My mum's been known to wash rice 20 times to make it perfect, but we'll just wash it like 7 or 8 times today.
So somebody's asked, how can you tell if the rice is aged?
It should say on the packet if it's aged or not. We buy our Basmati rice from a Persian supermarket in Sydney called Bahar Persian Supermarket. You could find a Persian supermarket in Melbourne and I'm sure in America. And if you can't, maybe like an Indian specialty store would have it. But just any aged rice, Basmati specifically, is what you're going for. And if you have to get in the supermarket, then that's what it is. Just look out for the longest rice grains that you can, and the longer age, the better the rice will taste. So this is just like a standard Thadig. It's just plain white rice. And
you can see the water is already getting much clearer.
Often it's flavoured with saffron as well, but like Lisa spoke earlier and said she doesn't like saffron. If you wanted to make this with saffron, this plain Thadig, all you have to do is get some saffron threads and add maybe, so like just a pinch, and add a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of sugar. And the salt and sugar, if you don't want to add sugar, you can just do salt, acts as an abrasive and it breaks down the saffron and you kind of create a powder. And then to that you add hot water, and that's a saffron liquid. And we'll show you later on, once you've boiled the rice and you're assembling it, you just spoon over that saffron liquid. And it's beautiful.
Can you cook the rice the day before?
I haven't done that before. I probably wouldn't recommend doing that because when you put rice in the fridge, it goes kind of hard.
Yeah.
And Thadig really is something that should be served fresh once you've made it straight away, because it's fried. It's like not quite like having hot chips, but kind of like you don't want to have soggy hot chips. You don't want to have soggy Thadig. It kind of defeats the purpose. So definitely something you should make. Should we prepare saffron water now? Sharon, if you want to have saffron in your rice, then absolutely you can. It just depends on personal taste. So if you want to, you absolutely can. You're just going to crush the saffron in a mortar and pestle with some salt and some sugar to act as an abrasive. Are you keeping count of how many times I've washed it?
I feel like we're in Shillong when people are doing the counting of the, the rabbi's chants. Okay. No, I'm not counting. Is anyone keeping count?
So this is starting to look quite clear. And like we said earlier, you can tell like if it's ready or not when the water is completely clear. If it's a little bit murky, it's okay.
Your mother's counting. She says it's 6.
Okay, 2 more for you, Mum.
Jude. I remember your mum telling me stories back in the day when we got the recipe originally about your parents, your late grandparents, and how the requirement of the rice, and it was so important.
Yeah,
the spices were brought back in suitcases from Iran, and all these things that were so important.
My grandparents left Iran before the revolution and came to Australia, and can you imagine coming from Iran, having a whole support network there and Persian food readily, to coming to Australia. Like now we can access really pretty much whatever ingredients we like. Yeah. But during that time, like to find just Basmati rice would have been so difficult, and spices. So I think this is 8 times. You can kind of see the water's pretty clear. And just for time, we'll start cooking it now, but you could definitely wash it another, 4 or 5 times.
And you can aim to do what Judy does and wash it 20 times. How about
You
that?
can, exactly. Every time you do it, you should add one more. Okay, so this is ready. I've just tipped off the water and we're going to boil it now.
So we have got a pot of water pot of water is boiling. It's like they're cooking pasta now. We've got a big pot of boiling water, which we're going to add some salt to. And we are then going to add the rice. Okay. So I'll do that.
Yeah. Okay. So cooking rice in this method is kind of like how you would cook pasta. We're cooking it twice. We're going to boil it till the rice is al dente, like you would pasta. And then we're going to drain it. And then we're going to kind of make the Thadig. And that's going to steam it and make it dry.
I've got 2 cups of rice, and I've added 2 generous teaspoons of water to the.
And this is just a large pot of water. And we're going to put our rice in.
And the rice has also changed to an opaque white from sort of a translucent colour. Like that's the change of that you'll see in the rice from rinsing and soaking.
And the longer age the rice is, the more of probably like a yellowier hue the rice will have, but it's just flavour. So I'll give it a bit of a stir. We'll pop the lid on. Where did I put the lid? Here. And we're going to cook that for 5 minutes. Halfway through, you can give it a stir so it doesn't sink to the bottom.
Now, it does say in the original recipe to cook it for 7 minutes for the meat dish. But we found Lainie tasted it after 5 and it was ready. Because you're looking for, I would say, just past al dente. Not quite al dente, a little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
But not ready, not finished.
Because when you make the Thadig, it steams it and continues to cook it. But, you don't want raw rice.
No.
So it's probably better to go to that side of more cooked than al dente.
Yeah.
And should we talk a little bit about how the recipe came about for the lubia pulla?
Yes.
Okay.
And before we do that, I just have to tell you a funny story. Well, I think it's funny. It's a sort of a sign of the current times. I don't know if any of you know, but if you get a supermarket order at the moment from Coles or Woolworths and they deliver it to your house in error, or they deliver your order to someone else's house in error, and it's all contactless now, they won't take it back. So you can be lucky. I've been unlucky. I had a big order one day that went somewhere else and they got to keep it because they won't take it back because of COVID.
Oh, God.
So a few weeks ago, I got an order that wasn't mine. I got 1 bag in my order that wasn't mine, and inside was 500 grams of green beans. And I rang Woolworths or Coles, whoever it was, and they wouldn't take it back. So I thought, all right, what am I going to do? And my first thought was this recipe, because we're not big green bean eaters in this house for whatever reason. So I got out the book and I looked at your recipe and I bought mince and I bought all the ingredients. And I probably haven't made it since, probably for 4 years since we wrote that book. And it's a delicious dish. Anyway, my family went nuts for it.
Oh, is that time?
Like they went absolutely nuts for it. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe how delicious, how crispy the rice, how flavoursome the meat. The beans are sort of hidden, so you don't even really feel like you're eating beans. All right, we'll take this off and boil now. 5 minutes. And that's my story. So that's why this dish has been revitalised in my house. And then I told my sister, and then she made it and she loved it as well. So that's my funny green bean story. But over to you, Lainie. Tell us where it all started, this recipe.
So there's a rug fair that happens every year in Germany, in Hanover, where basically all of the rug dealers from across the world meet. And so my dad took me to the rug fair for the first time when I was 18 and I finished school. And, like my dad, like a proud Jewish father, he's, telling everyone, oh, my daughter's an amazing cook. You'll have her cooking, you'll have her food. And I'm like, Dad, I thought I came for the holiday. Anyway, so then a good friend of my dad's, Alberto, and his beautiful family live in Milan. And we then went to Milan. And Alberto said, Lainie, you didn't cook for us in Hanover. You've got to make something for us. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll cook for you guys. and we decided that we were going to make a lubia pala. That's really what my dad wanted, so we said that's what we're going to make. We're going to make a lubia pala. And I kind of thought, I said to Dad, oh, Dad, do we have to cook today? Can we do it another day? He said, yeah, sure. I'll tell Alberto we'll do it another day. And my dad didn't message him. And comes 7 o'clock and Alberto says, oh, is Lainie going to come over and cook dinner? And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, dinner's at like 7:30. And, you know, in Europe, they eat dinner at like 9, 10 o'clock. So he was fully expecting me to come and cook dinner. I was like, okay. So the wife had bought all the ingredients, Anna, and thank goodness she did buy mincemeat, which is what I said. So I was able to quickly put together this Thadig, and we had it at about 9:30, 10 o'clock, which is normal in Europe, but for me, I'm like, I'm going to bed soon. Anyway, so I was able to make the recipe really quickly because it was with mincemeat as opposed to making the lubia, Horesh lubia, with not mincemeat, like stewing meat.
Which
like
takes a few hours, yeah.
And all those meats have kind of a lot of intramuscular fat, which need to be cooked really low and slow to melt and render. But we'll come back to that because I think our rice is nearly ready. I'll just test it. And I'm just going to break it in half and see what it looks like inside. I think another minute would be good. Anyway, so it was just a beautiful meal, and then Lisa approached me to maybe contribute some recipes for the 3rd book, and I said, oh, like, let's try out this recipe, and the girls loved it, and that's the story.
Yeah, we were lucky. Lainie came to the kitchen probably in 2015 or 2014 and showed us step by step how to cook it, and we all loved it. It's just different. It's unique. I've never seen anything like it, and I really recommend you make it. And someone asked me yesterday actually about whether it can be vegetarian, and absolutely, instead of mincemeat, you know, lentils, and make a vegetarian bolognese with the green beans and the onions and the spices.
Yeah, follow the recipe exactly the same except for the mincemeat.
And we will talk through the recipe in a minute, but let's just concentrate on this rice at the moment because I want you all to learn this perfectly, because once you've mastered it, you'll never look back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's been, it's going to be about 5 minutes for this rice.
Okay, and we'll get a tea towel ready. Please don't burn yourself. And we're going to turn it off the heat.
Now, when Judy, Lainie's mum, first taught us, you can do that and I'll chat when you do that. I don't want it to open. Taught us the recipe, which is in our 1st book, which is written up as white gobeli rice in this book. She does it a different method. She cooks it in a rice cooker or steams it on the stove, and then doesn't use another pot, actually does the crispy bit in the same pot. But Lainie will talk about that in a minute. I'm going to turn over. Do I need to watch you draining it? Is there anything? I might as well, since you're there. Since I'm here.
Okay.
So Lainie,
drain the rice.
So take care, everybody, when you're doing this.
We're using a fine sieve colander. If you were to use, if you were to use a colander with larger holes, the rice can kind of slip out and you'll lose some of the rice. So it's not the end of the world, but you'll lose some quantity of rice.
Oh, yeah, good job.
There we go. Okay.
And then, Lainie told me earlier, we then rinse it with cold water. So this rice, like I said, just took 5 minutes to cook, and that's it.
We'll just let that drain just for about a minute or two, so any excess water kind of
so you can see
comes off.
How long the grains are. They're really, really long grains.
And when you cook it this way, the rice grains are nice and separate. The way in the 1st book the rice is cooked, you know, steaming it first or in a rice cooker, it's also perfectly fine. Just the rice does, like you said, have a tendency to stick together a little bit more. But both ways are fine. This is just probably a more traditional way of cooking the rice.
I'd like to hear from your mum which way she does it now.
We kind of go in between both. It just depends on our mood. Okay, so we've cooked the rice.
Just put a tea towel around it. I just want the water to come out of that, just so that the water doesn't go into the oil. Lois wants to know which page is this recipe on. Which recipe? The rice one is, can you see what page the Lubia Polo is?
182.
The Lubia Polo is 182 and the original Thadig is on, it's right at the end of the book. And it is on page 260. 260.
I'll show you a picture. This is what it's going to look like when it's done. That's the neat Thadig, the Lubia Polo.
And it actually truly looks like that. For those of you who know our recipe books know that, you know, we've made all the dishes that were photographed and it looks exactly like that. And you'll see today it's the same.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is our second non-stick pot. And I'm just going to be putting that on a medium-high heat for the first part. And like we did with the Lubia Polo, we're going to coat the bottom of the pan with oil. This isn't really a dish to skimp out on the oil because what will happen is your Thadig will stick and it just kind of defeats the purpose. So commit to the calories and the enjoyment and have a salad on another night.
I think I'd like a t-shirt with commit to the calories on it. I think that's quite a good saying.
Okay.
No, it's true because you're not going to get golden, crisp rice without oil. That's what makes it.
And it is that gut-wrenching feeling when you kind of go to turn out the rice and you don't feel it kind of flop and it sticks to the bottom. But then that gets chucked out.
No, that's right. You just make a more rustic version of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times people serve Thadig not really as a cake, but kind of broken up on the rice. So it's not the end of the world. It's just beautiful presentation to behold.
But you'll see when you start making it, when you're ready to tip it out, you will hold your breath and you will hope with all your hope that it's going to be a beautiful golden mountain. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't.
Sometimes it isn't. But the more you make it, the better you get at it and the more comfortable you get making the recipe. But this really is something you want to invest in making a lot because it's just a beautiful side dish and it's really, really tasty. So I'm going to tip the rice in the pan. Thank you, Liz. And like we did with the Lubia Polo, we're going to just make a nice even layer of the rice.
So just remember when choosing your pan, this is 2 cups of rice in this size pan. You could do 4 cups of rice in this size pan. It would just be much thicker.
Yeah.
And again, you've got to work out what ratio of crisp to fluffy you want.
Exactly. So.
And my family honestly would have 2 cups of rice in a pan this size.
Like a paella.
Exactly. They just want it crispy and they fight over it. Yeah. And when they serve it, when I put it on the sideboard, they just take the crispy top and leave all the rice.
Also, it depends what you're having the Thadig with. I know a lot of people love it that much that they don't even serve it with khoresht, Persian stew. They just serve it with, you know, their chicken that they made or roast lamb even, whatever. But if you are having a meal with a more saucy protein, like a stew, that kind of thing, it is nice to have a little bit of a taller rice so you have more rice to kind of mop up all those sauces. Great idea.
And just with the saffron, back to that for a minute, when are we putting
I'll explain. Okay. So we've just made an even layer and I'm going to dome the rice again. And just coming back to our previous conversation with having a taller rice, the thinner your kind of Thadig layer is, the more control you have over checking it and the more kind of likely it is that you're going to get the perfect golden color because you can kind of peek a lot easier. Whereas if it's a taller rice, it's more difficult to peek. So maybe when starting making Thadig, if you haven't made it before, just go with the 2 cups and start with the plain one, and then you can go into the Lubia Polo. Yeah. But once you learn it, would you say it's pretty easy to make?
Yeah, it is. It is pretty easy to make. But again, don't expect perfection every time. Really, you know, it's pretty much different most times, and that's okay.
So now I've domed the rice. This is the point where I would add the saffron water. So you don't want to add more than, I'd say, 4 or 5 tablespoons of water, because if you do, it's just going to take longer to steam, longer to make that Thadig some people kind of do the oil and then the water at the bottom, but that just makes me a bit nervous for burning. Definitely just do oil, rice, and then just spoon over that saffron water. Exactly. So now with
I'm sorry we don't have saffron today. It's my fault. I take full responsibility for that. I don't know what it is about me and saffron, actually. So the question is, do you actually mix the saffron water through the rice or just drizzle it on the top?
You don't mix it, you just drizzle it. And then at the end, it kind of, you've got some grains that have got the saffron and some that doesn't. So it looks really beautiful.
Yeah, lovely.
Why is this a side dish? It has meat in the middle. So that lubia polo has meat in the middle, and that's definitely a meal with a salad. Perfect.
Yeah.
This plain Thadig, I'd serve as a side dish.
Yeah. It's definitely a side dish. It's just plain rice.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's right. You'd make a stew or anything, any fish or meat or chicken goes beautifully with it.
Yeah.
So now have a look carefully. Lainie is putting the holes again with the back of the spoon.
Yeah.
So there's a few steps. One, the rice goes into the hot oil. Then you dome it by going around the edges and making that lovely sort of sandcastle shape. And then she's going in with the back of the spoon and making the holes.
And again, just remember, try not to push all the way down to the bottom. There's still like a little layer of rice at the bottom so that it makes for a nice presentation. Again, we're coming back with our oil.
So we're not shy with the oil for this recipe.
We are not shy with the oil.
Candy wants to know, can we make it with butter?
You definitely can. So we'll just quickly come back to this. We're going to put on the tea towel. Sorry, Lise, thank you. On our lid. We're going to turn the heat down to a medium low.
Just be careful also with your tea towel that you don't have an edge hanging over that catches fire.
Absolutely. And be careful with little kids in the kitchen, obviously, because you wouldn't want them to burn themselves especially. So, and also just try before and make sure that wherever the heat is coming from, the pan sits perfectly on it, because if the rice, you can put the lid on, if the rice is sitting to one side of the burner, then it's not going to be evenly golden. It's kind of going to be more golden on one side and less golden on the other. So
are you feeling the pressure today to flip it out?
In Iran, they have like shower caps made of tea towels specifically for making Thadig. How brilliant.
It's actually very good.
So what was the question that you asked me before? Can you make this with butter? So in my cooking experience, I like to make it with, a neutral oil with a high smoke point, just because you've got more control with burning and not burning. Whereas if you do it with butter, it's going to be so flavorful. But I would definitely mix oil and butter. Yeah, and maybe I would melt the butter and just gently fold it through the rice and put kind of more oil than butter on the bottom if you want that butter flavor. Because the milk solids in butter kind of can burn.
Yeah. Definitely mix it with oil. I agree with that. But I think the butter flavour for a different thing would be quite nice. I mean, butter and rice is a
maybe
delicious
even
combo.
ghee, because ghee doesn't have.
Yeah, I think ghee would probably be better actually, because you're
milk
really
solids.
frying it in the beginning.
Yeah. So both pans are on a medium-low heat.
Now, the thing about this is
you've got to play around.
Yeah, and you've got to also plan ahead now of what you're going to tip it out onto, because you need to tip it out onto your serving plate. And if you've got a big, heavy ceramic dish, it's just too heavy. You need to really think about something that's going to fit on top of it that you can flip it over. And I've got a couple of things. I've got to go and get it because I forgot. But even a like a heat-proof plastic is very good. If you've got a plastic serving plate, that's the best because it's light, or a light board. What do you use to put your Thadig on?
I really love mud bowls and dishes because they're nice and thin. You obviously want to be careful not to crack it, because two things, it's so delicate, but also mud, whenever you expose it to extreme heat, it can have a tendency to crack. So sometimes I just tip it out on like a plain porcelain plate and then transfer it. And the great thing about mud dishes is if you wanted to make this 2 hours ahead of when you're having your dinner party, you absolutely can if you put it in an oven-safe dish like a mud bowl. And then you can leave it in the oven at about 150 degrees and it's beautiful. It stays crunchy and you don't have to have the nerviness of kind of flipping it out.
So what am I going to do? Because we're going to flip this out shortly.
Yeah.
And then I'm reheating it tonight. So what am I going to do?
We'll flip it out on any kind of plate that you want.
Yeah.
And then you'll transfer it to a mud bowl or any kind of oven-safe serving dish.
Yeah.
Put it in the oven and gradually heat it up to about, you can heat it up to 180 degrees, but don't start on 180 because that can crack your dish.
Okay.
So I turned up the heat on this, on both of them, only because I want to have enough time to show you guys how to flip it, and I'm just mindful of kind of staying within an hour time. Yeah. But there's a couple ways to know if your Thadig's ready to flip or not. So you'll hear like a little snap, crackle, pop kind of noise. And when you go kind of, and you'll go like this with the pan and you'll rotate it like that. And if it comes away from the side and it kind of shifts without any resistance,
then you know it's ready.
Then you know it's ready.
You get your dry teacher.
Thank you. But if it's at that point that you really want to watch it, because once it kind of comes away without resistance, that's when it will flip out, but then you still want to build as much golden as you can without it burning. And in my family, we like it on the most crunchy side.
So do we. Who doesn't? I mean, hands up who doesn't want it super crunchy.
Exactly. So we'll open the lid of our Lubia Polar. So it's definitely bubbling nicely around the sides.
I'm just going to move this over here for a minute.
Yeah. And we'll just put it on a high heat. Again, don't burn yourself. Use tea towels. So this is our Lubia Polar.
You can see it is absolutely bubbling away, gloriously brown around the edges, and just,
I reckon with 5 minutes to go, we'll flip it, because we really do want as much crunch as possible. If we go 5 minutes over.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody's fine. I'm sure everybody wants to see what happens, and we don't want to cut off before it comes out. Someone said, did you add salt? We added salt to the, it's soaked in salted water in the beginning, and then we added salt to the cooking water.
Yeah. So again, I'm just giving it a feel, and it's starting to develop that crust. Lisa, you want to have a feel around it? It will start to feel a bit firmer around the sides.
Yeah, and you can actually feel the crust at the edge of the spatula. There is definitely a crust forming.
Yeah.
And you can feel it in some parts, not in all parts.
Yeah. And you definitely want to kind of watch it when it's starting to build that crust, because you don't want it to burn, and it will start giving off a smell when it's kind
Toasted
of
rice.
Ready. Exactly. But do kind of cook it with the tea towel, so that will absorb the steam and help the crunchy bottom.
I'm just going to go and get my board to put it on.
Yeah, cool.
I'll be back in a minute. You just
do we have any questions that anyone wants to know? Please tell us if you've eaten this before, where your first experience or knowledge of Thadig has come from. Did you guys learn about it from us? Have you eaten it before? And yeah, so we did add salt to the boiling water, and obviously the meat filling has got salt in it. Are you going to do a book? I would love to do a cookbook. I know from watching Lisa write all the Monday Morning Cooking Club books that it takes a lot of time and, you know, testing and that kind of thing. So I really would love to write a cookbook, but I know it takes a lot of time and I'd only want to give it my 100%. So if I was approached by a publishing agency, then I'd love to. But yeah.
I think you definitely should, without a doubt. We've got so many amazing recipes.
Can I make this the day before?
Probably.
You could make the meat one before, and I guess you could do the plain one before, but it's probably better to do maybe morning of, if you're having a dinner party, and then just heating it in the oven, because it really is all about that crunch. So like Lisa did make the meat filling the day before, absolutely you can do that, but you probably would be compromising on that crunch factor if you do put it in the fridge. So that's just cooking away, and there's lots of different rices that you can do this with, but this just came to my attention. The reason why we don't mix the meat filling through the rice is because, like, if I was not making Thadig and serving the rice, then you could absolutely do that. But if you, like we spoke about earlier when we leave a lip around the sides, if you were to mix through the mincemeat filling through the rice, it's going to burn and it's not going to make such a tasty or consistent Thadig. So whatever flavor rice you want to make, you could make zabzi polo, which is Persian herb rice. You could do a jeweled rice with carrots and barberries. Just make sure that you keep aside a layer of plain white rice for the bottom so that your fillings or accompaniments don't burn.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Very good advice. Okay. Can you make the meat filling following the same recipe but with stewing meat, or use a different recipe?
Yeah, you absolutely can. You might need to up the water content of the dish because it's just going to cook longer. And I cook it on a medium-low heat for probably like 6 hours or so. And we really love to make our choresht with like ossobuco meat. Our family preference is veal, but if you can only get beef works perfectly fine as well.
So I think we should probably talk through making the meat mixture. It's really a type of bolognese, isn't it?
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah, it is. It's like a Persian bolognese.
It's like a Persian bolognese. And it's a very interesting way of cooking because you first cook the green beans and you saute them in some olive oil with some salt and pepper so you get them nice and flavoured on their own. Then you're going to take them out, and then you add the onions to the same pan and saute them till they're golden and soft. And then you take them out of the pan and then you start browning off the meat. And then you add lovely spices. This one's got cumin and cinnamon and tomato paste and tomato puree, turmeric, pepper and salt. So it's got lots of flavour. It's tomato and spice, and it's just got the most, I guess, exotic flavour for something made with mincemeat. It's quite.
And your first time eating Thadig, was that when you were starting to write?
Yeah, the first time was when your mum made it for us. I was blown away. I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, nowadays it's all over the internet.
Yeah, I know.
But back in the day, in 2009 or 10, who'd even heard of it here?
If you guys want some nice, if anyone's on Instagram, some nice people to follow for Persian cooking, Nicole's Kitchen LA. She's a beautiful Jewish girl who makes beautiful Persian recipes. Jake Cohen, who's in New York, is also kind of a bit of a Thadig king because his partner is Persian. And obviously Monday Morning Cooking Club, my Instagram, Lainie's Kitchen. So they're all places of inspiration that inspire me.
So you see when Lainie moved that, I don't know if you can see that, the rice moves as a whole.
Yeah.
So it's a cake now, right? It's
so
not.
You can hopefully you can see that it's not kind of falling apart and there isn't resistance. But because there is more of a water content per se in this rice than the plain rice, it is going to take longer to build that crust because the steam is taking longer to evaporate.
So this is about a good 45 minutes. Can we see the wiggle? Yeah, sure. Let's bring this forward. Things ready? Yeah.
I think we're good.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
It's very hard to show you. I think, can you see that? So it's like, the whole thing's not, it's actually moving as a whole.
Mm-hmm. It's like a cake.
Yeah.
It's flipping onto here.
Yeah, well, is this too heavy for you? This is what I used to flip it on. I'm happy to flip it for you if you like.
Sure.
So whatever you're flipping, do you want to do it though?
I'll do it. I'll absolutely do it. I hope it doesn't make a big mess everywhere, but let's just do this. So probably good to wear, do you have kitchen gloves?
Yeah.
Probably a good idea to wear kitchen gloves doing this because the tea towels can slip.
Watch that hole.
Oh, this is a funky one I've never seen before. 3 fingers. Okay, so make sure you're holding both handles really well, and it's kind of nice and center, and we're going to flip it. One. Is everyone ready? Should I go on the side? Is that better?
No, go closer, I think. Yeah, okay.
Ready? One. Please just stand back. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Fine, don't worry about that. You right?
Yeah. So make sure when you flip it, you kind of do a bit of a flipping motion, like a swift one, because if you do it too slowly, it'll fall apart. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Yum.
That looks really, really good. I mean, it is very, very golden.
Some areas
perhaps a little bit too golden, but you know what? I'm
Probably
not unhappy about that, and I'm going to serve that tonight quite happily. It looks really good. You can see the edges are really nice. Really, really good. I have to say, under the pressure of doing this live, I think it's fantastic. You just have to be happy with however yours looks. Honestly, as I said 3 times today, it's never going to be the same every time. You know, your heat might be a little bit higher or lower or whatever. Just go with it. But that looks absolutely beautiful.
So I'm going to see how this other Thadig
I'm just going to move this over.
Now again, I'm going to shift it around. We're going to do all our tricks. So we can hear a snap and a crackle and a
Just
pop.
bring it over a tiny bit so they can see it. So this one, it doesn't have as much liquid and oil, but you can see still. Can you see? I can hear it, okay? When Lainie does that, it's like
Doing a bit of shimmy.
doing a bit of a shimmy. It's exactly what it is. It's called the Thadig shimmy.
So now that this is kind of a flatter one, I can kind of go with a little spatula and look on the side. And that looks golden. We could take it further, but we'll just show you guys how to.
And the good thing is that it lifts up in one piece. So it's become one piece, not just a pan of rice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Venetia asked how I will reheat that on the board. That's a really good question, Venetia.
Transfer.
I have to work that out.
Okay, and again,
you're watching, everyone.
We're going to do a swift motion, because if you kind of, you know, are a bit uncertain about it, it's just going to fall apart. So 1, 2.
And you hear a resounding thump as it hits the bottom.
And this is a good time, if you haven't flipped it directly on the center of the dish, to kind of move it in the pan to the center. And there you go.
You know what? That's just gorgeous. Just absolutely.
It's a little blonde.
It's a little blonde, but
if we had more time, we'd kind of cook it a bit longer. And then you can put this in the oven, and it will continue getting more golden with oven heat. And you're going to try some.
Are you going to try
Maybe later. I'm not, but you definitely can.
I've eaten it so many times that I know what it tastes like. But the question is how to reheat this. And what I'm going to do is put, I'm going to get a dish and I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm going to slide it into the oven, I think, and reheat it in the oven. I think that's the best thing to do. But it looks absolutely gorgeous, and I don't think it's overcooked at all. I love that really dark brown rice. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
And we're just so grateful for you guys joining us, and we hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Persian rice and Thadig. And definitely send us pictures of your creations.
Yeah, please do.
The recipe is going to be sent out to you. It's in the 3rd Monday Morning Cooking Club book. It's all about the food. And I might post the recipe on my Instagram.
Sure, yeah. And what about just the plain rice one? We don't have that one anywhere.
We don't have that in the recipe, but I mean, we could write down 2 cups of rice. Oh, you'd follow everything the same in the meat recipe.
That's right, just without the meat.
Yeah.
We'll just do that. So you're getting that recipe. Lainie, thank you so much for coming in again. It's been really, really great to have you and to share this. This is really one of those secrets that we all need to know, that until you're told and showed, you have no idea how to do it. And I think it's really, I hope you all go and make it today or tonight or tomorrow. Lainie's Instagram is Lainie's Kitchen, Lainie's Kitchen, Lainie's Kitchen, and please post it to that, or Dunera_project. Or it might be Dunera_people at the moment. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's _people.
And I just want to give you a quick reminder of the 2 Dunera events coming up. Sunday, 5 p.m, Synchronicity with the incredible Lainie Cadry, and 5 o'clock next Thursday, 11 a.m. next Thursday, creme brulee, cabaret and creme brulee. Sorry, there's too many questions here.
And my mum also just mentioned the plain white recipes in the first book as well.
Yeah. So enjoy your rice dishes. Please post them to Lainie's Instagram, Lainie's Kitchen, or to the Dunera Project or Dunera People Instagram. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
and we'll see you
guys.
on Sunday and then
Have
again
a
on
beautiful
Thursday.
week. Be
Bye,
well.
everyone. Thanks for joining.